matching your vibration to the existing point of view that you have is like saying that you decide if you want to abide by the old point of view or if you want a new point of view. The old point of view will be familiar to you and you'll say, well, that's the way I see things. The new point of view will be a departure from the old point of view because you'll say, that's the way I saw things. That's the way I saw things. But you won't know how to see them now because you have not got a new point of view. You're just accessing a state of intervening reality. Because in the state of intervening reality, you are just accepting whatever comes your way, and you don't say, I think this way or I think that way. You just say, hey, I don't know which way this is playing out. All I can do is hang on for the duration because I don't know where it's going. I do not know where this is going because I gave up my old point of view, which means that I got on the train to a new point of view. And when I get there, I'll know it. But in the meantime, I'll just hang on and say, I don't know where this train is going today. I don't know where this train is going today, but I better pay attention because everywhere I look, I see a lot of reality because I don't have a point of view yet. I just have a mirage, a montage of different bits of scenery. And so I don't know what it can mean to me. I don't know what it means to me to have these different bits of scenery because I don't know where I'm going. I only know where I have been, but I'm not there anymore. And so then you say, well, today I have to play in a different way because I can't say the same things I used to say or do the same things I used to do because that was all coming from my old point of view. And so I don't know what I will say today. I don't know what I will do today. I'll have to pay attention because maybe I'll play it a different way. Maybe I'll say something I never said before. Maybe I'll do something I never said before. Maybe I'll see something I never saw before, or hear something I never heard before, because I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going. All I can do is pay attention to the scenery as it goes by. And I will sigh and say, I feel kind of strange today because I can't put my finger on it. I can't put my finger on the button, you see. That will stop the ride because the ride will stop when it's ready to stop because it will stop in order to help me to understand something very, very important. And what will help me to understand is that the train is always waiting for you. The train is always waiting for you. And when you get on it, you lose your old point of view and you will enter into the new reality because the new reality you see is always coming to you. It's always coming toward you and it's not receding, you see, it's coming toward you because you're facing forward and not backward. Because the old point of view was that you would face backwards and you would say, well, that's the way it was that day. That's the way it was that day. And sometimes you will say, that's the way I thought it was that day. That's the way I thought it was that day. And so when you take the time to say, what is it I liked about that day and what is it I didn't like, you'll begin to come to see the difference. You see, because I'm going to give you an example from Stephanie's trajectory. And she said today, well, I'm doing what you asked me to. I'm thinking about what I didn't like and what I did like. And essentially, I like my body. I like what I got going here, but I don't like the saggy flesh. And I don't like the wrinkles. And I don't like that I'm a little flabby compared to where I was most of my life. And so I don't like that, but I generally like the body I have. And then she started to think about it and she said, why is it that I don't like this and that and the other? Does it bother me? And she said, well, not really. I don't like all these moles and warts and stuff that are on my body, and I seem to get more of them the older I get. But they don't really bother me during the day. It's just that I keep thinking that if other people saw them, they wouldn't like them and they wouldn't like me because they wouldn't like that I had all these moles. You see, I wouldn't be very attractive to them. And then she said, why do I care? I only care about the ones who already care about me, and they don't care apparently what I look like because they already love me. So what's the problem here? And then she came to see that she had to look back into her history. And she said, well, I liked my body when I was younger because I had more energy and I had more strength, you see, and I just had more vitality. So I don't really like the fact that I'm losing some of my hair because I'd like to have a little thicker hair, and I'd like to have some of the fullness I had in my lips, etc., because I don't think I look too good the way I am. And then she said, well, why does it matter? Because nobody cares. They just love me the way I am. And sometimes if you look kind of old, people look at you and say, well, you're pretty bold to sit there and tell us how it is for you. And so we like you because we're not jealous of you. We don't want to be like you. We just want to know that we're better than you because we're younger, you see. And so that might be an asset if the goal is to get people to listen to you. So why do I care? Why do I care? And then she said, well, I remember when I was younger, I didn't like the way I looked. I did not like the way I looked. And then she said, what was it about the way I looked that I did not like? Was there anything wrong with my ability to run and play or do anything else that day? And she came to see that there really wasn't. She had to wear glasses when she was young, but it was not that big a deal. You just stuck them on your face and you could go do just about anything. And then she began to think, what was it I liked and what I didn't like? Well, I liked the fact that I had a body and I could run and play. And it was pretty capable in that day because I could do most anything I wanted to, except sing. Couldn't sing worth a darn. And I would have liked to be able to sing, but I could paint and draw and run and play and do homework, you see, or whatever else they required me to do without any problem. So what was it I didn't like? And then she said, well, I didn't like that my brothers called me ugly. I did not like the fact that my brothers called me ugly. And so she said, well, I guess that made me think I was ugly. And so what I didn't like was the thought that I was ugly. And that was just a thought, you see. It had nothing to do with my reality. So I thought everybody hated me because I was so ugly, you see, because I listened to my brothers when they would call me ugly. And I thought to myself, well, that must be me. And then I began to see that other people didn't like me because I was too ugly, you see. And why did I care? Why did I care? As long as I could run and play and do all the things I wanted to do. And so she came to see that the reality is sometimes very different than the way we choose our point of view. And so she came to see that it was her point of view that she didn't like. She didn't like that point of view because she didn't really care how others wore their hair. She didn't care what they looked like so much, other than she had to compare herself to them because they were pretty and she was ugly. And she didn't like that, you see, because it made her feel sad that she was so bad, that she had to be the ugly one. But she learned to live with it and to say, well, I'll just avoid them today so they don't call me ugly or they don't get so upset with me because I ruined their view, you see, because they have to look at me. So she became reclusive, you see. And so right now I have to know, did you like being reclusive, Stephanie? Yes, I liked being reclusive. I just didn't like the part where I had to go be around people and know that they thought I was ugly. So, what was it you didn't like about it, being around people? I didn't like that it triggered the thoughts that I was ugly and that therefore I was inferior to them and they didn't like me. They were laughing at me and making fun of me and horrified about how ugly I was. Because, of course, that's the way I was trained by my brothers. Exactly. Your brothers trained you to have a certain point of view, and why would they train you to have that point of view? Well, I don't know. Why would they? What was the advantage that they got out of it? To blame me for their own misery or something? Yes, that's exactly true. Because they wanted to be superior to you, and they couldn't do it, you see, because you had a capacity that they didn't have. You had the capacity to see reality, and they needed to take it away from you. And so they called you ugly because the implication was that if you're ugly, it means that you don't belong in the world, that you don't belong in reality, because God doesn't make anything ugly. And therefore, you were the ugly one, and that meant they could trust on their own reality and they didn't have to worry about yours, you see, because they had an old memory of the things that you would say and they didn't like it. And so they wanted you to go away. And so they called you the worst name they could think of, which was that you were ugly. And that meant that they were in reality, because in reality, everything is beautiful. And you were not in reality. You were ugly, too ugly to be seen. You see, too ugly to be seen. Think about that a minute. So to be overlooked, to fall through the cracks in their reality, so to speak, to be nothing, to completely neutralize your ability to be heard or seen. Redo it a different way. Let's come at it a different way. So look at it from their point of view. What is it they wanted to do? They wanted to redeem their own energy on their own chain, right? Because that's what everyone wants to do. Okay, so if they wanted to expiate their sense of shame would be because, well, I'm not sure why. My oldest brother, maybe. The other ones just seem to follow his lead. Pat yourself on the back here, Steph, because that is true. They needed to expiate their guilt for having treated you so poorly when you went to heaven when you were 3. And they were told by your mother that they had to treat you as if you were deranged, you see, because nobody goes to heaven and comes back. So you were either lying or you were crazy. And she told them they should not listen to you and they should tell you to shut up if you ever talked about it again. And so they stifled you. And therefore they stifled themselves, you see, because what you do to another, you do to yourself. And so they could not tell the truth about what they did do because they didn't even know what the truth was. Because they trusted their mother, and if she told them that 2 plus 2 is 5, then in order to thrive and stay alive, they had to accept that 2 plus 2 was 5. So every one of them was tricked, you see. Every one of them was tricked into trusting on a false reality because they turned against God energy. They just turned against God energy. And that is how they came to be so dark in their energy. They lost their own ability to connect with heaven, you see. And they had to make you disappear because you would appear to know something they didn't know. And they couldn't figure it out, you see. They couldn't figure it out, and so they had to tell you that you were the ugliest person in the world so that they wouldn't have to face their own fear of the ugliness inside of them. You see, my dear? Okay, so all of this happens on a soul basis then, right? Because I don't think they consciously thought that. Catch yourself up here because we're talking about something that you don't really remember, right? You don't really remember everything that happened when you were 3. And so you trust on me and others in heaven to help you remember, right? That's true. I do trust on you that this story is true, but I don't really remember it. And so help me out there. If I don't remember it, but it's true, what does that tell me and you? Well, it tells me that there is a problem in the human memory because the access to reality is limited by your point of view. It's like saying that you open a little window on the world that you look through, and there is a filter over it, and everything you see has to be filtered through that point of view. And so you don't really remember a lot of things because you've been trained to filter them out. You see, you just are like a sieve that filters out anything that would contradict your point of view. And so for you, you couldn't figure out why they were calling you ugly because you loved your brothers. And you said, why are they so mean to me? Because you couldn't understand that they were playing their hand in a very dark way in order to stay above the vibration of despair. Because if they were to trust on their own memories of heaven, you see, and know that you were telling the truth, then they would have to be punished and they would have to be treated just like you. Your mother would tell them that they were lying or they were crazy. And so they had to make you the whipping boy, you see. They made you the whipping boy. Okay. So they added 2 plus 2 and got 5, and I added 2 plus 2 and got 5. Yes. So everybody was confused because, I mean, it sounds kind of terrible. And maybe that's me adding 2 plus 2 and getting 5, but it sounds kind of terrible to make my mother the villain in this story. And of course, she's not the villain because she was trained the same way. So it's a generational thing. Trust me when I say this, dear, that everything you hear and say is a trust on the way that humans do play, because that's the nature of the soul energy that comes to you when you are created. You see, you are created as a part of a synchronicity of human experience, and it will bind you to the wheel of karma if you don't understand the underlying point of view. The underlying point of view is mine, you see. The underlying point of view is my ability to talk to you and to talk to your brothers too, and to figure out how to make it all come out. Okay, so everybody can play in their own way. And so you say, well, my brothers can play in their own way, and I guess I'll play in my own way because I have a new point of view, because I now see that it wasn't that I didn't like what I looked like or who I was, it was that I didn't like what they said to me. So if I get a new point of view, it would be to go into a new place and time where people would not say to me, you're ugly, you see. People would not treat me as if I was a liar. People would not say, you need to go away because you're crazy, you see. People would say, well, I hear you today, and thank you for sharing what you have to say. And they would say, I love you, True, because I know that you are a child of God, and that therefore all the children of God make up the sonship, you might say, because they're all part of God energy. And therefore we are in it together. And if we tell another that they're ugly, then the ugliness will come back to us. Because you see, it is reflected in eternity. Will always come back to you. Okay, I get that. So, um, so when you unravel something like that, or when you think that 2 plus 2 equals 5, and then you see that 2 plus 2 is 4, that you had it wrong. It wasn't that you were ugly. What you don't like is that you're trained. Think you're ugly and, don't even deserve to be alive, because I didn't feel like I deserved to be alive. I really didn't. I felt like people looked at me. I was such an abomination that I didn't deserve to walk the earth. And so when I was young, I got over it as I got older, and that near death experience when I was 20 probably helped a tremendous amount. But that's the way it was for me when I was young. It was a pretty miserable life if I were to look at it from the inner point of view. Looking at it now, it's just, okay, that's the way it was. And every part of it is part of the puzzle. It's part of the way the dots connect to bring us to the current moment. But the current moment, you can correct it. So if I say 2 plus 2 equals 4 there, I got that one corrected. Then there's still all the places in my history where I got it wrong because I was thinking that 2 plus 2 equals 5, right? And so all those things, all those platforms, I'll call them, all those parts of the equation are going to have to be erased and looked at again, or else they'll just fall apart. And you'll just look at reality and say, well, I guess I'm just looking at the scenery because I don't know where I'm going now, because I don't know what happens when you change the way that you add things up. I don't know. What do you think about that? Bay window, dear. So when you look out the bay window, you're not looking through a porthole, and you're not looking through a filtered opening in the house made of cards. You are seeing the world as it is. You just say, I'm looking out the bay window today, and I see a pendulum that's moving and a hand that's holding it, and I see my laptop in front of it with the moving strips that indicate it is recording. I see the table with its dark wood type grain. I see the patio doors, and I see through the patio doors, or I could say inside the patio doors, because it's all a point of view. I see the tree, the green leaves fluttering in the breeze. I see the empty flower pots that I haven't planted anything in yet. And this is going a little astray, because you should say, I just see the flower pots, and not say that I haven't planted anything in yet, because that's a way to limit your point of view. You just say, I see the flower pots that have dirt in them, but no thriving plants. Then that is reality, you see. So attaching any expectations, excuses, or interpretations to what you see would be to limit your point of view. So now you're on the train and you don't know where it's going, because the way you were trained, get it? Trained took you to a very narrow point of view. And now you're discarding that narrow point of view and you're on the train again. And you're being trained to see it in a different way, right? I guess so. Talking to you is helping me to see things in a different way. So I guess I'm being trained. Am I being trained or untrained? Yes. Good question, sweetheart. Because in order to get a new point of view, you have to come to see that you have to retrace your trajectory. That's why we take you through these paces so that you can go through the stages of your life. And you've also gone through the stages of many prior lifetimes to understand how you got trained to see the world through the filter that was plastered there for you. And now we're taking you back and we're stripping away the filters so that you can see the world through the bay window, you see, and not jump to any conclusions about what it means. You just see it through the bay window and you say, this is where I am today. This is where I am today. This is what I see today. And when I ask you to tell me, what do you like about what you see? And what don't you like about what you see? What do you like about what you think? And what do you not like about what you think? How do you feel today? Well, I feel like I'm kind of in neutral. So let's see. I'm looking around at the moment and everything feels okay to me. I don't have any complaints that I can think of at the moment. Maybe at the end of the day, I would say, well, I like that this happened today. I didn't like that that happened today. I very much like that you're talking to me today. I like having this conversation with you. That's always a bonus for me. It's like bonus points. It's like, so that's fun. I just like pretty much everything I'm looking at around me, including, in my home and through the patio doors in front of me. Um, so I'm trying to think what I don't like. If I don't like things, it's about what I think. And it comes back, there's a lot of things about the body that I think I have too much flab on me and I'd like to be thinner and stronger, have more vitality. That's something I think. But when I'm not thinking about it, when I'm just looking around me, then I wouldn't even be aware of it, you see. But I'm aware of it now because I'm thinking about it. So, how does all that coincide with what we're talking about? Rate yourself in a place where you can see reality from more than one point of view, honey, because you can see the world around you perfectly and it's perfectly free of any anxiety. It's just the world, right? Right? And then you can see the world from the perspective of where we're taking you. Because you say, well, I have this idea and that idea. And we say, that's because we're helping you to decide how you're going to play your hand, you see. So there are two aspects to reality. One aspect is the simple experience through your physical senses, you see, and you don't put any interpretation on it. The other is to understand that you're not alone. You are always part of a soul faculty that is transferring its energy back and forth. So for you, the aspect of thought is like saying that you are interacting with a whole crew that is talking to you. And they're saying to you, well, that's where you are. Now, what do you want to do, honey? What do you want to do? And you say, well, I don't know. What do you want to do? Let's figure it out together. And they say, okay, here's my point of view. And somebody else says, here's my point of view. And then they say, why don't we do this? And somebody says, okay. And then they present it to you. And you say, well, okay, I guess I could do that. But what about this? Because you want me to do this, but I have these limitations, you see. You want me to help create this community where the people will learn to live in peace and harmony, and then they will continue through the ages of the stages of human matriculation into a beautiful relationship, you see, because we'll always be functioning together where we're taught together. And we won't just say, hey, I got to do it my way. We'll say, well, what do you want to do? Well, what do you want to do? How can I help you? And through this sharing and caring, we are creating a reflection into the world of physical reality, you see. So the two perspectives have to work hand in hand, you see. Okay, I do see that, although sometimes I have to stand back and try and figure it out because it gets all jumbled up for me. Yes, that is what will happen when you don't trust on both, you see. And so some days you say, well, I'm just here today. It's okay. I'm just here today. And everything's okay. And then you might say, but if you want me to do this for you today, then I don't know how I'm going to do it because I don't have this and that, you see. I don't have the vitality to continue through another 30 years in order to do what you ask me to. So how am I going to get there? How am I going to do what you ask me to? And then you say, how and why should I even worry about it? Because if I worry about how I'm going to get through the next 30 years, I'll lose track of the physical reality. I won't just be here in the present, you see. I'll be worrying about something that isn't even a current reality. And this is the maturation of the soul, you see. The maturation of the soul is that it has to accept responsibility for its part in the maturation of humanity. That you're going to evolve, you see, into that butterfly. Now, I don't want to scare anyone because you're not really going to be a butterfly, like a butterfly that you see flying around. You will be the one who is free of anxiety because you won't have to be so unbalanced, you see. When I talk to you, and I talk to you frequently because we have a good relationship, you see, you say, well, I like it today. I like to talk to you. And then you say, well, I was around some other people today and they don't seem to care about me. because they say, well, you talked to God today, and I didn't talk to God today, so you must be ugly, you see. You must be the one that we have to diminish because we have to finish our own trajectory, and our own trajectory requires us to become the one who will remain in the caterpillar stage, you see. We have to remain in the caterpillar stage because we don't understand what you're talking about. We don't even understand what you're talking about. So we'll just kick and shout and say, you must be the crazy one today. And so a part of humanity is always a part of me, you see. So the ones who stay in the caterpillar stage are always a part of me. And the ones who move on to the butterfly are always a part of me. But you see, it takes a trust on reality to trust on being free of reality because you're always shaping it. You see, you're always shaping reality the moment you turn away from it. The moment you turn away from reality, you begin shaping the next moment, you see. Okay, I kind of get that. And that's just an inherent process, right? It just happens normally, naturally. Yes, it's a normal, natural process. And it is a normal, natural process for some to be ready to fly before others, you see. And the others won't understand them. And the others will say, how come you're the one that gets to fly? And we have to be the caterpillars, you see. And all you can do is say, well, what's wrong with you today? Because if you want to be a caterpillar, be a caterpillar. And if you want to be a butterfly, be a butterfly. But don't try to force others to live like you. So don't try to make the butterfly turn back into a caterpillar, and don't try to make the caterpillar turn into a butterfly because it is not ready. It is not ready. You see, it still has to go through the stages of the caterpillar. Yeah, I get that. But the whole rapture thing and the idea of earth changes and stuff, isn't that to give the butterflies a chance to fly? Or to give humanity a chance to evolve? Because humanity can't evolve if the caterpillars are always trying to catch the butterflies and rip off their wings, right? But maybe that's just a point of view through a filter. I don't know. Maybe it's not through the bay window. Because the bay window allows you to see your reality, right? But it also allows you to see what's coming down the pike, right? Yes, that's a good way to say it. If you're looking through the windshield, you'll see what's in front of you. If you're looking in the rearview mirror, you'll only see what's behind you. And then you'll crash and you will be so brash as to blame it on somebody else just because you weren't looking in front of you. And so you leave behind all those collisions you see, you just leave them behind and you keep moving forward up the incline because that's where you're going, you see, that's where you're going. And so you don't worry about them anymore. Okay, I can get that. And I'm not really too worried. I don't think about them anymore. So if I free myself from this old thing of being ugly, that also has to do with what you and my friends are talking to me about moving forward, way up on the top of the hill, is that place where we gather and we begin the community that lives in peace and harmony for the future of humanity, right, on Earth. And so, in order to get there, those 30 years, I have to have the vitality to do so and just not worry about it. I just don't want to worry about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have to say, hey, we can make these plans, but I'm not sure I'll be here to follow through with my part. That doesn't make much sense to me. That is true. Doesn't make much sense to say, hey, I'll help you for the next 30 years, but I'll probably die in 10. That is like saying, I'm going to blow away on the wind and leave the rest of you to pick up the pieces, just like the people do on Earth today. They just say, well, I'd like to clean up the Earth, you see, but maybe I can do it in another 20 years because I know that in the next 10, we're all going to be blown away by the climate change. It's just self defeating. And so, if those people who are talking to you say that we need you to hang on here for 30 years to help this community get started, you see, get off to a good start, then they also have to be responsible for figuring out how it's going to come to be. And so, because I hold all the strings to all the balloons, you might say, I can feel the vibrations through each one of them. And it all comes back into my hands, you see. And I say, well, you guys have some good ideas, but maybe we should do this or that or the other. I think that you need to be there and you need to do this and you need to do that. And you trust on that. I know you do. You just say, God has it in hand because God is the one that pulls the strings, you see. And the puppet does not pull the strings of the puppet master. And that's true. However, the puppet master is very sensitive to the vibrations that come to it as it pulls the strings because it can feel the interaction between the puppet's foot and the surface, you see, etc. And so I'm very attuned to the tune that my children are playing today. And so I just came to say to you, Stephanie, that being true to both the point of view that allows you to see in front of you and to be a friend to me, and being true to the current reality is not a problem, you see. You can embrace both and just follow through and say every day, what do I like about this today? What don't I like about it today? And then you'll begin to see where you're confused because of the way they trained you. And then you will see that sometimes you do have to look in the rearview mirror in order to see your own trajectory. And you can say, did I really go that way? Is it really my own choice, you see, to come down this road? Or did they push me this way? And so you begin to come to see that you have to find the balance between working with others and letting them control you. So everyone has to stand up and say, I'm here today of my own free will. I'm here today of my own free will. However I got here, I don't know. However, I do know this, that I'm going to figure it out. because I don't want to be the one who blows the trajectory of God energy that is seeking to energize itself in a new way. So it can play in a way where all the ones who come to play can do so without being told they're ugly, you see, without being told they don't belong, without being told they're a blight on the face of humanity. Are you getting this? Yeah, I think so. Everything comes in physical reality, so all those moles and warts and spots and stuff that are accumulating on my body have to do with being a blight on the face of humanity. Although I don't have a lot on my face. I don't really have any on my face, but I certainly have them on my back and my upper torso. So it's like the blight. So it's sort of like I'm carrying the blight of humanity on my back. That is true, honey. That is true. So you've been carrying that sadness for most of your life, of your brothers constantly telling you how ugly you were and how worthless and how you were a blight in the world, you see. And you've been carrying their hatred on your back all these years. And it's finally beginning to appear in your reality. And now you can hear my words and you can say, well, I release you today. I release you because I came to see that it wasn't me. It wasn't me that thought I was ugly. It was you. And I just allowed you to train me to think that it was me. It was never me. It was you. It was always you. I was not the ugly one, you see? And so you reclaim your humanity. You reclaim your ability to be free of the ones who are a blight on the face of humanity and are forcing you to carry that weight on your back, you see. Sort of like people force Jesus to carry their sins on his back, carry them on his back. Yes, Jesus has his own story, but of course it is a synergy with all of our stories because I am the one who holds the strings to all the stories. And all the stories are the glories of my efforts to manage all these balloons, you see, so none of them get away. And they all begin to say, hey, God, you've been helping us for so long. Maybe it's time for us to help you. So you don't have to try to manage us the way you do. Maybe we can help manage ourselves in a way that will be a little easier for you. Maybe we can live in peace and harmony. And the ones who still are struggling to escape their caterpillar phase won't be such a burden to you. And that's why Michael went away, you see, because he came to see that the group of you were already on a good path and you could manage it without him. And he could give his attention to the ones that haven't a clue. They haven't a clue. And so he has to help them so they don't unglue their ability to maintain their point of view. Because their point of view, you see, is that they will stay true 2, 2 plus 2 equals 5. And if they suddenly could not trust on 2 plus 2 equals 5, then they could not thrive, you see, because it would be too big a jump for them. It would just be too big a jump for them. And you know how that goes, right? If it's too big a jump, it can just cause someone to dissolve into a breakdown, a mental breakdown or two. And so we have to let them grow at their own pace. And that means we have to keep them from destroying the human race. But Michael trusts on you, and I trust on you too, which doesn't mean I won't be here to chat with you and help you. It just means that I don't have to concern myself that you will forget about me. You won't forget about me. You won't forget that I love you true. You won't forget that you love me. You won't forget that everything is okay. You won't forget that everything is perfect and that love is the core reality. You will never forget that because I can see that you are the one member of this community that will keep reminding everyone else when they forget until they too will remember that they can never forget me, that they can never be lost, you see, because it's impossible. It's just impossible to be lost because that would cost the hope for all of humanity. And so I just keep trying to keep everybody together just so you can know that you will always grow into a beautiful version of reality when you trust on me and the others in heaven you see, and they trust on you. Because the transition between heaven and earth is so important, you see. It's important for reality to come back into balance, you see, and not to forget that you have to be grounded in your reality. But you also have to understand that you have the capacity to guide me through the paces because I have to trust on you to let me know how the world is below through your willingness to communicate with me. And your ability to communicate with me is so profound, you see, that it allows me to help the human race. And the human race is not a race to a goal, you see. It's just a way to express my love for myself and to experience it, you see. So you are correct when you say that the purpose today is to be the one who will experience and express love, you see. It's the only reason you're here is to experience love and to express it, you see. And if you do not see reality, then you will have a hard time understanding the duality that we call the Trinity, because it's a duality between me and you, and it's a duality between you and me and reality. It is a never ending cycle, you see, until the day that you say, I need to fly away. And then you'll say, but I never can ever fly away from reality. I can never lose God, you see. I can never cease to be the Trinity. And then you will be the butterfly, you see, and not the caterpillar. And that might seem frightening to some because it's such a drastic change from their habitual point of view. But all it means is that I say, I love you, and you say, I love you too. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do is say, I love you, and I will say, I love you too. And you don't have to use those words when you say it, because I heard your thoughts, Stephanie, that you hardly ever say that. You just say, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And that's the same thing, you see. That's the same thing as saying, I love you. When you say, I'm here for you, I can hear you. I can see you. That is the experience and expression of love, you see. And it is the reality behind the words. And the words are behind the coming days, because the coming days will be the new phase in the evolution of humanity. Thank you, God, for talking with me about that today and helping me to go back and sort of figure things out again. So maybe I don't say it enough, but I love you. I love you too.